What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the Anti-Oki Podcast. I am Mr. Behavior, and he is Silos. What is going on, man? Oh, wait. I'm too black. Okay, here we go. Now I'm not black. Too black. What's going on, Silos?
Yeah, man. It's been an interesting weekend, as you guys saw on episode 5.5. But now we're here, and we're having a good time.
We're still here. By the time you guys are hearing this, obviously, you're just like, these are pre-recorded, so it's like 2 weeks ago, but
something like that.
I hope you guys enjoyed the episode that came out today about the FGC government. And today we have another guest. We got a new guest. Are you just going by Peter? Is that?
Yeah, I think that is
okay.
Fine.
Cool. Yeah, awesome. Well, we got Peter, and thanks for coming on, man. How are you?
I'm very good. Thank you for having me. I've been watching all the episodes, and when you guys highlighted my comment in your 2 videos ago, I guess.
Something like that.
It was really cool to see that you. And then when Silos invited me on, even though I've disagreed with you guys on a fair bit of your videos,
like that.
I'm still looking forward to talking with you guys.
Absolutely. See, that's the great thing, though, is that we highlighted your comment because we realized, we saw that like you were reasonably disagreeing with us, and you weren't like calling us names or like yelling at us or anything like that, or like trying to assign positions to us that we don't have.
He's not a Twitter weirdo.
Right. And so we were like, that's great. Like, let's have a conversation. Like, let's talk about some of the stuff that's going on. I know that we have some similar ideas. We might be coming at them from different angles, but that's the whole point. You know what I mean? It's like, we want to try to like stir up conversation. So we really appreciate that.
Yeah. It seems like we generally have a very fundamental agreement where we think like the future of dialogue kind of rests in things like this,
right exactly.
Where things like podcasts, responding to podcasts, go back and forth, like that's like a fundamental kind of view, and once you have that, everything else kind of clicks, and nothing else is really a problem anymore, because you generally have the same end goal,
right se. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I think it's even though I disagree with a lot of what you guys have been saying, I just think it's important to approach these kind of things with an open mind and not be so judgmental of people's ideas.
Yeah, for sure.
It's very tempting to be, because it's rewarded kind of on like social media to be really judgmental, but
yeah.
Much.
Well, so tell us about your like, what games are you playing right now before we get into like the meat of the discussion?
So I'm actually pretty new to fighting games and kind of new to the fighting games community. So I'm just sort of learning who a lot of the people are. Mm-hmm. And I just made a Twitter for the first time to
oh boy.
I'm only
man.
So far I've only seen like Street Fighter discussion, but
cool.
Give it time.
Yeah, maybe so. But so I'm new to fighting games, but I play Street Fighter 5. I'm Super Diamond now with Chun-Li. And Silo's really, I've told him this before, but really his tutorials really helped me rank up to where I am now. His Sakura Rookie to Diamond series was
for sure.
Very influential in my progression. And
yeah,
now I'm sort of stuck around Super Diamond.
But yeah, for sure. Well, that's better than me, man. Shit.
Yeah, we got silver behavior over here.
Yeah. Hey. I got to gold rank. Okay.
Okay.
Stop playing the game. All right. And then I decided to jump back into the game after not playing it for like 6 months, pick a completely different character, and not go to training mode. That was a bad idea. Fair enough.
Well, I feel like there's not even that much of a difference between someone who's gold and diamond.
Yeah. You were saying that before. Yeah. I mean, like, I think with me, it's like I have a hard time committing to one particular game. And so like I bounce around a lot. And so like I have like all types of like dumb habits from like different games and things like that. I'm not somebody who's gonna like blow up on ranking leaderboards or anything like that, just because of the nature of the fact that I can't stick with one game for too long.
Yeah, I have kind of the opposite problem. I can't play multiple games. Like I just have
sure.
I'm better at sticking either one or two games. Usually it's like Street Fighter or Tekken, and even Tekken I don't even play that much.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's like I don't know. Like there's another streamer I watch who's kind of like I'm not really like a fighting game player. He's like a Street Fighter player, which is I kind of resonate with more. But I do like other games. I don't play them that much.
Yeah,
It's
for
not like
sure.
that they exist. Like when Dragon Ball Fighters came out, I bought it because I want that to do well.
Yeah.
But I don't even like that game. I just like that it exists, kind of thing.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
I
got one of these days. I got to stop bouncing around and just pick one game. Maybe Guilty Gear Strive will be that game. Who knows?
I think a lot of people are pinning Guilty Gear Strive for that.
I really like King of Fighters too, though. So I don't know. It might be.
I might get that too if they had the rollback netcode. I mean,
yes, exactly.
I saw that they're planning on it.
I mean, Guilty Gear Strive and King of Fighters are gonna have rollback, so it's like
Street Fighter 6 better.
I know, right? Well, I mean, I don't even know. Do you think we're gonna hear about Street Fighter 6 anytime soon? I feel like
no,
I don't think so.
I don't think until the earliest, like 2023.
Right. Because this game still has another year of content coming, which means like people will be playing it for another 2-3 years, like probably, and so 2020
might even see a season 6, like if everything if like because I don't know how long. Yeah, I mean I don't know how long this crap is gonna last with like because remember they originally wanted to develop Street Fighter 6, then COVID kind of ruined everything and they did this. Yeah. What if that just happens again?
No, I don't think it was COVID. I think it was Ono-san.
Yeah, maybe you're
because
right.
he stepped down, right? Or didn't he's not at Capcom anymore, right? And so like
no, he's not.
I think that had to do with I think that there was production issues on, if I remember correctly, there were production issues on Street Fighter 6 and they replaced him as director or producer or something. And then he stepped down from Capcom. And I think that's why they decided to, don't quote me on this, but I'm like 80% sure that that's why there's a new season for Street Fighter 5 and Street Fighter 6 we haven't heard about, because I think they were supposed to announce it like this year or something like that.
I mean, you could be right. I mean, personally, it's kind of been better since he's been gone. Personally, like a lot of the announcements have been pretty good. The hype has been good. The changes have been good. Like,
right.
I don't know. It could have happened sooner.
Yeah. I mean, but I mean, that sucks. He's been around for like such a long time.
So I know.
Kind of like a weird thing, but like you might be right. It might be better without him.
I mean, I like Ono. I just think the game is doing really well right now.
Yeah,
like,
I think he
left.
left.
I don't know if that's because of him. It could be. I don't know.
I don't know. What do you think, Peter? You know anything about this?
I mean, I don't really know anything about him, but I only really started in season 5.
Okay, for sure.
Or season 4, I guess.
Yeah.
But I think like the rollout of Dan and the new patch and like the announcement, that was all handled real smooth.
Yeah.
I think they really did a great job hyping everything and rolling it out relatively smoothly. Sure. So I think Street Fighter's in a good place.
All right. Well, that's a good segue. What do you think about the FGC as a whole on the internet? You think they're in a good place?
I probably think they're in maybe a better place than you guys do.
Okay.
So I should say, I'm new on Twitter and I haven't really seen too much of what you guys have referenced, but I've seen all the examples you guys have brought up.
Mm-hmm.
But as I was saying before, I feel like it's that's kind of Twitter unique, Twitter specific, and isn't as common across all platforms. I don't think that you find the same attitude that you see in Twitter in Reddit or in like Twitch chats or places like that. I think like when I was reading people talking about the FGC code of conduct, for example, on Reddit, it was almost being universally panned by people. I didn't see a single person defending it. So I think it is maybe partially that people who have different opinions have sort of gone to their own separate spheres and they aren't really interacting with each other very much from their spheres.
So it's kind of like a hardening of beliefs, like we were talking about before we started rolling. Like people are kind of in their own echo chambers. And you think that, so you're saying that Twitter is one and they'd be like R Kappa or something is another.
Yeah, I do think that is true. And I think, I do think that that's a bad thing.
Mm-hmm.
I think Twitter as a platform seems to have a lot of problems. I think it really encourages people to sort of be toxic to each other and
Mm-hmm.
kind of incentivizes it. And I think that is another cause of a lot of the problems. It's like people are incentivized to publicly try to take someone down. And they're sort of rewarded with it by retweets and likes and more visibility. And I think that is sort of part of the problem Rob is talking about in his video today.
So where do you think that comes from, though? Like that whole desire to take people down, do you think that that's born out of any, like, when in terms of the FGC, right? Do you think that that's born out of like the competitive nature, or do you think that that's born out of something else? Because we're talking about something where people like we're on the side that like people should be talking shit, right? Like people should be talking shit to each other and all that kind of stuff and demoralizing each other to some degree to try to win a fight. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that there's a lot of like some of the stuff that we're calling out is like we think that there's a lot of people who are sensitive to these kinds of things and want to sort of suck that out of the FGC. And I don't know if like maybe that natural sort of carnal desire to just kind of like rip somebody down within the game has anything to do with like how how it manifests online, and like if there's maybe a line that's being crossed or something like that. It's just a thought. I don't know if like that it has any weight, but what do you think about that?
I would be surprised if it were the case that like the nature of fighting games was directly impacting how people, I mean, maybe the kind of people who are attracted to fighting games are more aggressive, but I mean, I love fighting games and I'm not particularly aggressive, but I think as far as like the causes that I see, I think it's pretty complex, and I think it's a mixture. I think in some aspects it's people are coming from a pretty pure place. They want to, they care a lot about certain issues, and they want to speak out against racism and homophobia and that kind of thing. And that's a good thing, I think. But I think sometimes they also want to do that to sort of project that they're doing that. And I think also sometimes people think that, to affect change, they just have to be as judgmental as possible and not accept the flaws of other people. And I think that is a mistake on their part.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like, I think you do. I mean, you have a point where you say that like people have good intentions, right? And like that's something that I do recognize too. Is it's like I think that a lot of these people think that they're doing a good thing, right? And I can respect that, but from my perspective, even as somebody who, when I lived in California, I went to a lot of FGC events, and I never felt like it was a problem that I was Black. Like, mostly because most of the people there were Black or Asian. I don't know if you've noticed this. Where are you? Have you gone to events?
No, I have not gone to events. I've really only started during COVID. It was kind of my quarantine activity.
Got it. So. Okay. So
but I want to after it's done. I want to start going.
Gotcha. Okay. So like Silas, I don't know if you've noticed this, but like when I went to events in California, it was mostly Black people and Asian people.
Yeah, that's kind of the case at NLBC is like that, where it's really like it's majority like, well, I wouldn't say majority. It's like a mix of like Black, Hispanic, Asian. It's like
right.
It's kind of a mix. And the thing about NLBC though is that they don't pay any attention to any of that. They kind of just congregate and play games.
Right.
Like if I were to give like my long-term goal of what I want to see the FGC kind of revert back to, It's pretty much what NLBC is right now.
Right.
Is that they're all about just like having fun and talking shit and just playing games.
Right.
And I think that's why they're liked so much.
Right.
Same thing, kind of like what we were saying with LTG. Is just like obviously he's on the like extreme end, but it's kind of like rebellion against the other side kind of thing.
Right.
Like there's kind of a demand for this kind of revert to what the FGC kind of was before, right? But it's kind of like what Peter said, because I've noticed since I stopped really using Twitter, because we don't have personal Twitters anymore. Like since I really stopped checking it like daily, and I'm really predominantly on like YouTube and Twitch. I think it is definitely true that every platform is very different. Like Twitter is way more toxic than any other platform I've ever seen. And like whereas like Twitch and Twitch chats is really predominantly like people congregating around streamers they like and just playing games. Obviously certain chats have are kind of like, you say certain things, you get banned and whatnot. It's like the comparing Twitter and Twitch is like night and day. Even same thing with YouTube. Because you notice like on our videos for this podcast, like the only reason we got so much hate recently is because the Twitter mob
because of Twitter. Exactly.
But like before that happened, it was just kind of naturally growing. You had people disagreeing, like Peter with his comment. It was kind of like, it was pretty normal, like the interaction with people on YouTube.
Right.
Specific to Twitter.
Right.
And it's kind of like what Peter said. I think Twitter is designed this way. It is designed to incentivize people to hate each other for that, for the dopamine rushes, I guess.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, the strange thing is that, so with YouTube, I think I agree that YouTube is definitely a different type of platform. I feel like people allow people to speak a little bit more on YouTube. And I think it's because you can see us, and you can kind of get the inferences of like we're doing this video where you can see everything. You can see our facial expressions. You can see when we laugh about stuff. We can see that we're joking about certain things. Right. And so it becomes less like, you're not making up an intent because you can kind of like see it. So like, for example, I went back and like, after that whole thing with Xanos happened, I went back and I looked at our video, like the first couple of minutes, and I was like, dude, we like basically criticized what she said. We made fun of her a little bit, and then we moved on and talked about the idea behind her tweet.
Yeah, for like 30 minutes.
So if you're watching this, if you're somebody who is a rational-minded person and you're watching this, you're like, okay, they're using this tweet as an example of a problem that they see, or a mentality that they see, where people think that casual players deserve to play with pro players or something like that. And that was the whole point. So, but if you're somebody who's only seeing this written down on Twitter, and it's like you said something about this person without like actually feeling or seeing the intent behind the words and the conversation, then it's gonna anger you. Like you read it in like your most unfavorable inner voice. You know what I'm saying? And so I think you guys are definitely on point there. I think that like Twitter breeds that type of mentality, but with YouTube, like since you can see us, it changes. That's what I think. It changes the perception.
Well, I also think YouTube is just less, in a way, it's less social. Like you don't have your own profile necessarily as a viewer, and
right.
So you're not so much like, I can't click someone's name and see every comment they've made or like re-comment their comment. So there's not so much incentive to like try to tear someone down to get it to go viral. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because you can't go. That's a good point.
That's a good point.
Yeah. Because you have to make videos, right? You have to create your own content. Whereas
right.
Twitter, you just write something and instant gratification.
Right.
I didn't really think about that, because I think there's actually a section on YouTube where you could. It's like a really like inconvenient thing to see people's replies on YouTube. I don't know if they've changed it recently, but like there used to be a section or like community or something. Maybe it's still there, where you could see like recent replies. But it's kind of like you said. You get nothing out of it, nothing out for you, right? It's just kind of like you see this, and that's really it.
Well, you have to do more
like
work.
You can get your comments upvoted, but like you can't see who upvoted it, or you know what I mean. It's just less social, and I think that makes it less.
Really think of that,
right? And the fact that like on Twitter, like you can check who liked a tweet, and you can be like, oh my god, you like this toxic tweet. And the fact that like if I like something, it appears in everybody else's feed. This is what I was saying before on the last episode. It's like, dude, you can't, like, if you follow some people on the FGC, certain people, like certain key people, you can follow like 3 big names, any big names you want on the FGC, and you will see certain people's posts because people like, retweet, or share things. And I mean, not even the retweets, but even if they just like it, it'll show up in your feed. And then you can see that person liked that thing, and then you can go, oh, that idea was fucked up. That person liked it. That means they support this idea. Like, you know?
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that because in the thread where they were going crazy on us, I think like Xana's mentioned a few times that like all like I live rent free in their heads. Like, I don't think she understands. Like when I had Twitter, I had my personal Twitter.
Right.
Like I didn't even follow her, but I followed people who followed her. So I would always see everything.
And you would see everything she wrote
just because like I follow people that liked her stuff.
Right.
Like that's Twitter. It's crazy.
Right. That's the thing is like I don't think a lot of people understand that that's how Twitter works. Right. Yeah. It's not just like oh, I know who you are and I can follow you or whatever. It's somebody I know follows you. Now I see everything that you post. Like that's how Twitter works, man. So the idea that like you don't even have to be interested in knowing about something. Like you have to actively block people that you don't want to see. And like if you don't know who you need to block, then you're just gonna end up seeing it anyway, right? It's like
yeah. I mean, I guess in a way it isn't necessarily bad. Like on my Twitter, I only follow like 10 people, I think, right now. But so it doesn't have much to show me. So it's kind of filling in by just showing me everything that things from people that the people I follow. And so far though, I mean, it seems fine.
I mean, it's gonna, like I said, it's gonna get really bad. I think if you stay on it and you like start to like accumulate more people, you'll see kind of like, you know, it's exactly what we're talking about. It's just kind of like the idea that everybody's opinion is the most unfavorable framing that you can possibly get in your head. And I think a lot of it is just the nature of just reading written text, right? So like even text messaging is bad unless you like know the person like and their cadence, because otherwise you assign a voice to them in your head that's not theirs, right? And like people will read, you know, it's like if something has a period, if something is caps, if something is whatever, you know, then they'll read it a certain way. And it's just like, it really removes the humanity out of conversation.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And I think also, you know, expressing yourself clearly in written text isn't a skill that everyone
that's true
has really.
That's actually a good point. That's a good point. So we got this video from RobTV that we wanted to talk to you about, because we all checked this out, and
pretty
it
new
was
too.
I think it was from like 2 days ago.
2 days
ago.
The 5th.
And it's titled. Wait, let me see if I can bring this up, because it's I think it's in Discord somewhere. Silos got it for me, and it says
it should be there.
It's an open letter to the fucking internet and the FGC, and I think RobTV makes some interesting points here that I think most of us will probably might vibe with, you know. Where do we want to start here? So he's got a lot of timestamps, which is actually really good.
Yeah, that's actually why I picked it too. We can just like kind of skip to
I'm gonna share it real quick so we can all check it out.
So I think we could start with 727 with groupthink
internet culture.
I think that one was really good.
Okay, so we're gonna just like kind of go through it and chat with you about you guys. So if you can't see this, I'm sorry, but you should watch it. So we're gonna start with 727. Here we go.
They're pretty short segments, so it works out.
Can you guys hear that?
I can't.
Can I play it?
I'm not hearing it. No.
You're not hearing it? Okay, we're gonna do something else then. We're gonna do watch together, and I'll send you guys the link. In the meantime, Silas entertain people while I
yeah. So
said this.
This video is really interesting because, you know, it's kind of like what like back to the whole like kind of like hive mind thing, right? Because, you know, I looked at the timestamp. I wanted to see what he titled them, and in one of them it just says black man, right? So I clicked that, and I was like, is he gonna think what I think? He's gonna talk about what I think that most people really go on about when they put that. Like I kind of like pre-incentivize in my head. I'm like, I hope he's not gonna go the whole woke route, I'm so used to seeing that. And it's like, it kind of goes back to what Peter said. It's like when you're constantly in a platform where it's like, you're seeing this thing over and over, that even though it's not reality, like if you just step away from the platform, like you realize like real life isn't like that. Like you start thinking like this is like everywhere you go. And so even though it wasn't. And I was like, no, let me actually watch it. And I watched it, and it totally like came from left field. I was like, oh, it's actually a good section. I actually like that section a lot.
Yeah. So I sent you guys the watch together link so we can watch it all together. Don't click play yet. I have it right before some of the one of the timestamps. It's timestamps. And all right, you guys ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
All right, so we're gonna check this out from RobTV.
People don't want to be on the outside. You ever see that picture, it goes around on Facebook and shit like that, where there's the dude over in the corner, like hunched over, like crying and shit, and then there's the big group of stupid motherfuckers, and they're all in a group pointing at him and laughing and shit. But he's way smarter than them. And at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. People want to be a part of the group. Why is it not cool to be smart and shit in middle school and whatnot? This nigga doing his homework. And even though I'm speaking on it that way, that's where I go.
Okay. So he's actually hitting on something really interesting, which is what I think is actually a problem with like specifically in the Black community. Yeah, I don't know if it's a problem in other communities, but
I saw this and I was like, I really wanted to see your perspective.
Yeah,
see what he does. Yeah,
because I think he has a point. Like Black men in particular clown on each other for trying to be studious, and this happens like a lot. And what it does, like young Black men, and what it does is it makes them think that like not the pursuing knowledge isn't worth it and stuff like that. He's hitting on something that I don't think he realizes like how poignant that is, but like that's actually like he said that, and I was like, damn, like. I'm glad he's calling that out.
I don't mean to make it sound like that's only some shit that happens like in the hood areas and shit. You know? It's the same thing, bro. So there might be somebody who might be fucking smart or might be but they will literally go out of their, people just want to feel accepted. I'm not here to necessarily just chastise the internet for being what it is, though. What I came to realize is that the internet was what it was before RobTV existed, as far as like, the whole moniker and whatnot, right? So I have to fucking embrace it. From this point on, I'm not gonna fucking overthink a podcast because fuck you. I'm not going to go out of my way to try to have the narrative be a certain way and so on and so forth because fuck you.
Okay. All right. Let's stop there for a second. What do you think about that? I think he's hitting on something. He's getting close. To like, this is why I posted on the, I posted on this video from our Anti-Oki podcast, YouTube, saying keep freedom of speech alive, because that's really what this is I think that it's the ability to be able to like have a conversation and not have to follow like a certain narrative or ideas or whatever, and be able to just like freely think and talk. And I think he's sort of hitting on that.
Yeah, it kind of because he mentioned a little earlier, like in the earlier section of the video, where he talks about like false narratives. So I think it's just where he's getting at, but he's not like directly like addressing the people who are behind, who kind of push this idea forward. I kind of want to get what Peter thinks though on this.
Yeah.
So I really like RobTV. I mean, I think he does a really great job at what he does and hosting, and I've played him a few times and he always destroyed me. One thing from this recent segment that we just watched, though, that I wanted to ask you guys about is he said that he isn't here to try to prevent the internet from being the internet. Mm-hmm. And I was just wondering if you guys maybe felt a little bit like that's what you are trying to do.
To prevent the internet from being the internet?
Yeah. Like you have a problem with the way things are, but I feel like in a way his view is just a little more accepting, and it's like the internet is going to be what it is, but like I'm not going to let that affect me personally.
So I think that it's an interesting question. So I think that what we're doing is we're trying to give a voice to people who feel like they can't say anything about things that they disagree with within this community, right? And in that sense, I think we are embracing it, because really what the internet is supposed to be is a platform, is a way for everybody to have their opinions and platforms broadcast. We're not saying that other people can't have their YouTube channels or their Twitters or whatever, but we are going to be able to criticize it. The issue is that when people right now, that the issue that I see is that when people do criticize it, then they're canceled. They're not allowed to like have a voice. They get deplatformed. I mean, you even saw what happened with us. They're trying to deplatform us before we even got to 100 subs. Like,
yeah,
why?
Very threatening, I guess.
Right? Like, why is that? Like, think about that. Tells me, honestly, that we're hitting on something that, like, there's a crack in the wall right now. And we're hitting on something that other people are picking up on, even the people who are on the side that we're opposing. They're picking up on it, because if they weren't, that whole thread on Twitter wouldn't have happened. Like, we would have just been like, they're just like, who are these clowns? Fuck them, whatever, right? But the fact that that even happened before we even built an audience, we really don't have an audience right now. We have like a very small pool of like our friends and people we've interacted with on the internet that are like kind of feeling the same way, that are interested. We don't have an audience. So it's not like we're not trying to tell them that they can't do what they're doing. They absolutely can, but we also should be allowed to criticize it without feeling like we might get banned from tournaments. That's the point.
I actually predict we probably will be at some point as we grow.
Yeah, probably.
This is what it is, you know.
Yeah.
I think if you guys keep the same demeanor and content that you have done so far, I would be extremely surprised if you ever got banned from a tournament.
So the issue that we bring up, so we oppose like neoliberal gender ideology, which is something that has infused itself in the FGC. And the reason, though, my main reason, at least for me, I don't want to speak for Silos here, but my main reason is that I don't think it has anything to do with fighting games. And that is the issue that I have. If you're bringing something in and you're creating a problem that doesn't actually exist, I can go to a tournament and like talk to whoever. I don't care if you're gay, straight, trans, whatever you want to call yourself. My issue is that I don't want to have to believe the same ideology that you believe, right, about that stuff. And when you try to force me to do that and bring it into an area where it shouldn't even be in the first place, from my perspective, then I'm going to have a problem. So those are the kinds of things that I think are prone to get us, at least me, based on what I just said, even banned, because I don't think a man is a woman and a woman is a man, for example. And it's like, that shouldn't even have anything to do with tournaments or fighting games, but it does now.
But, you know, there's a difference between what you just said and what Low Tier God said that got him.
Which part? What? That he didn't cut his dick off?
There's a clear difference in both the intention and, you know, crassness of what you're saying, and mean-spiritedness of what you're saying versus what he said.
Wait, so do you think I'm more mean-spirited or he is?
No, I think he is clearly much more mean-spirited. I don't agree with your guys' views about trans people.
Yeah.
But I certainly think you have a right to your opinion, you know?
Yeah.
And but I think it would be unprecedented if you guys saw big consequences outside of people attacking you on Twitter. I think that will be as far as it goes.
I hope so.
I hope so. I want you to be right. Yeah, we'll find out. That'd be dope. Then we just keep doing this.
Yeah, fine. Exactly. Then it'll be fun.
And it's not a big deal. But like,
and we can continue to be a bootleg on Blast Show or whatever, right?
I guess what was kind of the turning point for me, or just like, okay, this is kind of a problem, is like not just LTG got banned, Sarah Blast got banned.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Sarah Blast is very on that side. He's like, he fully embraces the whole woke ideology on goes on the FGC, and he still got banned for something he said over a year ago. And in the I actually understood what he meant when he said that. He's just kind of using New York slang because he spent time in New York. So I was just like, I don't really see the deal here. I don't even think he had ill intent of what he was saying. I think he was just talking shit on the internet, which is what actually RobTV talks about, where I forgot which section it was, but basically he was talking about like the internet's kind of made for talking shit, and like people go on the internet, it's more fun to go on the internet and say like fuck you bro and just like have a good time rather than educating or like learning anything. Like it's kind of designed for just shitting on people. And like it kind of made me think of like back like in like the early 2000s when I first like started playing games online, and like the online gaming community is still like kind of like that. Everyone just talks shit, but it was generally like accepted. It was generally like it was generally just everyone kind of understood what it was. It's just talking shit online. You play your games and you turn it off and that's it. And over the last like 5 to 10 years, it's kind of transformed into like something else where it's like, no, this is like a harmful thing now. We have to stop it. And it's like, I don't know if and that kind of shift is, I guess, kind of gets away from what it was kind of designed for. It was just like, we just talk shit to each other and just, that's it. And everyone kind of understood that.
Yeah.
So I don't know. That's kind of how I think about it when it comes to like the internet.
Right.
I think when Zero Blast was banned, it was kind of like they had already banned LTG. And so they were kind of in a corner at that point. Because if they didn't,
then they would be setting a bad precedent.
Then it would seem like they were not being consistent,
right?
Even though I do think, like in the intent, like CeeLo said, I don't think Zero was doing the same thing LTG was doing. I think Zero's was kind of just using slang. Not that they should have said it, but maybe, I don't know what they should have done, but I think in a way they were kind of forced to take action afterwards, or else they would seem like they were not being fair.
I think it comes down to whether or not, I think we talked about this with Slav, it's like, if you're going to ban somebody from an event, why wouldn't it just be something that happened at that event, right? Why does it have to be like something that somebody tweeted? Why does it have to be that somebody said on their stream, even if you disagree with it, right? And then the second part is when it comes to the thing that LTG did say about Sero, if you tell me that making fun of somebody or making a dig at somebody because of whatever is not acceptable, then what you're telling me is those people are too weak in order like to be able to like take shit talk on themselves based on whatever those characteristics are. If I played LTG, he would call me a black motherfucker. You know what I mean? Like a dark ass motherfucker. You know what I mean? Like that's just the reality. You know what I mean? He would find some way to roast me because I'm dark. And like that's just what it is. So it's like if he's gonna roast somebody because of, okay, this person's trans, fantastic, got it, all right. Let me roast them on that. If you tell me that you can't roast trans people because of that, like then you're telling me that you think trans people are like not able to take jokes about themselves, which I don't think that's true. I think a lot of them can. Like I lived in California for a long time, man. I lived in the Bay Area for 10 years. I knew trans people that like had great sense of humors about themselves and what they were and stuff, and that's fine. Look, I'm not going to say that you should go around and like attack people and like beat them up or like whatever. That's ridiculous. But like we're doing like a competitive thing. Everybody's talking smack on each other. Like I said, my example would be people would make fun, roast me because I'm dark skinned. Yo, that shit happens. It happens. Black people roast on each other all the time for that kind of shit. You're going to tell me that like we can't roast on? Come on, man. Like, I don't know. I think it's
but
silly.
That's in a way that's kind of the difference. It's like if he roasted on you for being black, he is black too, but
he's also a light-skinned motherfucker.
But don't you think it would be like don't you feel like it would be a little different if some white streamer did it compared to him?
You know what? No. I'm gonna be honest with you because I think that people need to stop being so sensitive about that stuff, because like back in the late 80s and early 90s, we were ripping on each other. Look, I went to fucking elementary school in the 90s, man. Right? We would like when I was like in like 8 years old, 9 years old, we would roast each other because you were black, you were white, you were Hispanic. I grew up around all types of people. High school too. I went to high school in the early 2000s. Like we would roast on each other all the time because I'm black, my friend because he was Italian. You know, I got another friend who was mixed race. I got another friend who was like Haitian or some shit. Yeah, he got the worst of it because he was Haitian. You know what I mean? I got a friend who was Polish. We'd make fun of him for being Polak all the time. That's just what it was. So it's like we make fun of each other, especially males do that a lot, where we make fun of each other to bond and stuff. And like that's just how it is. Removing that kind of stuff, honestly, is it to me, it's more harmful than people actually think it is, because you're removing a mechanism that people use to bond and test boundaries and make bonds with people.
Well, I think that there's a difference between joking around with your friends like that, where they know they're your friend, and doing it on a stream that is very public against someone that you don't actually know. I don't think that those are equivalent.
But so how often? So if you go to a tournament, how often do you sit down next to somebody that you really know very well, like when you're fighting, like Silos?
Yeah, well, I mean, before I actually get to that question, because you both raise interesting points, right? Because there is a difference between like saying those things to somebody you know and saying this things to somebody you don't know, right?
For sure.
I think really the question I actually have for Peter is, so like basically what it comes down to is like there's kind of this like fundamental idea in the FGC where it's like, if you say things that somebody doesn't like, that can get like, that's not like not within the event itself, you can get banned from an event. Do you think that's a what's what I'm looking for? It's kind of like that's a thing we should do as a community. This is like more of a fundamental question, because it's really what it comes down to. It's like certain people didn't like what LTG said, and because it got so much attention from certain people, the organizations felt like they had to do that. And then that led to the whole Cero thing getting banned. And what it really comes down to is like you cannot offend certain people on the internet, or you can get banned at a physical event. It's kind of like this this fundamental idea. So
I think it's like when you think about this question, I think most people would agree that there are certain things that if someone says them, it would be appropriate to ban them. And the disagreement more is if that qualifies as that. I mean, could you imagine if someone said something just was like a avowed white supremacist? Would it be okay then for them to be banned, if they were like a activist? You don't think so?
I'll tell you why.
Yeah,
I'll tell you why.
So either. I'll tell you why. Talk, though.
Because the only way, two reasons. One, words are not violence. Someone has an idea that I don't like. The second thing is, the best way for me to combat that is with a better idea. If Silas has said this on this podcast a couple of times, which is, if you have an idea that I think is wrong, you want me to believe it, you need to convince me. It's the same thing. Somebody can be, dudes. I sit down next to mad people at a tournament that I've never met before. Most of the time we don't really talk. Sometimes there's a little talk shit. Sometimes there'll be shit talking, but like, bro, I'm gonna tell you this right now. There is not a chance that I've not sat down next to somebody at a tournament that doesn't like black people. There's no fucking way. The entire time that I've sat down there's got to be at least one person that doesn't like me because I'm black. The chances of that is very low. If that person were to say something to me, I would just fire something back at them, or I would ignore it, depending on what was going on. That doesn't mean that I want that person, unless that person physically assaults me or physically does something to somebody else at an event. There's a difference between the words and the violence. I don't think that it's appropriate to ban somebody for words, because once you start doing that, it's a slippery slope. There's no stopping any of that. If I don't like something that somebody has to say about me, or somebody doesn't like me because I'm black, I can just avoid that person. I don't have to be around that person. And what I can do is either avoid them, or I can try to convince them why they should stop being a racist. I'm probably not going to do the second thing because it's a waste of my time, to be completely honest. But I don't think that I really don't think that people should be banned for having ideas that I disagree with, even if it has to do with me, honestly.
I mean, I don't think people should be banned for having ideas that you disagree with.
Well, that's what that is.
But to a certain extent, right? I do think there are some views that are so heinous and outside of the mainstream that Capcom is well within both their rights and their responsibilities to say we don't really want that.
Capcom's a Japanese company. You're telling me that there's no Japanese people that work there that don't like black people? Come on, man. Let's be real.
I'm sure that there probably are.
I'm not saying that Capcom's full of Japanese supremacists, but come on, man. I've been to Japan, okay?
But would they still have their job if they publicly and actively voice that opinion?
No,
probably not.
Maybe not. But okay, so I think that's a different thing, though, right? Because I can see your point about
because
not wanting to associate.
Just to kind of chime in real quick, because I think about this often. It's just what is the difference between okay, I said something really mean about a certain race, so a company bans it from an event, between a worker says something really mean at a company, and the CEO bans it from their job. What is really the difference there? How do we really? Because the thing is, if you don't really have those differences, it's kind of hard to argue our point where we say you shouldn't ban people for just saying whatever they want.
Right.
When they could just bring that. I'm kind of trying to figure out what is the clear difference. Right?
Well, so one is trying to impose. I guess in some ways it's if you're running an event that's seemingly a public event or something like that, right? Like an Evo or any of these tournaments, and somebody enters the tournament that has questionable viewpoints on women, for example, right? Unless that person actively harms a female at an event, at that specific event, I don't think that person should be banned. Just because if somebody had said something that we wouldn't like about somebody that we know, and we saw them at an event, does that mean that we have to take action? No, not necessarily. I think that if that person did something to someone at a thing, and we know that person is actually a threat, a bodily threat to someone, then that's a different thing than just having an idea that person doesn't like. We don't have it's not a right to go to events, of course,
and be accepted into them. You know what I mean? Sure. It's privilege. And sure. I think that on one hand you have what you're saying, which is you're afraid it's a slippery slope. How far will it go? What kind of ideas will they ban? What if it gets super strict?
Right. But it already is, though. It already is. I mean, we've already seen it in the FGC Code of Conduct that they're telling people that things that they do in their own homes could get them banned from events.
And I'm not saying even that isn't a problem that is worth debating, but I don't think that threat is enough to then say, well, we just can't police anything someone says outside of our event in terms of accepting them. I don't think
though. But that's the whole point.
I don't think that little threat should mean that they do nothing ever.
No, but that's the whole point of free speech, though. So here's the thing: if somebody says something that we all disagree with, and that we agree with is heinous, then what we'll do is we just won't ourselves. We won't associate with that person, right? But when you say that everybody who enters this one thing, unless it's in some degrees, I guess you could say the FGC is like a club, right? So you could say we don't accept if people, I don't know, don't play Virtua Fighter 4 or some shit like that, right? If you think Virtua Fighter 4 sucks, you can't come to this tournament, right? Now, do you think that if that sort of thing was to be enacted, maybe they like Street Fighter, but they think Virtua Fighter 4 sucks, Do you think that they should be banned from a tournament because of that? Like a Street Fighter tournament.
Right. No, I don't think someone should be banned from Street Fighter because they think Virtua sucks.
Right. So that's what I mean. It's like if you have a thought, it's one thing, but if you have or thought or words, it's one thing, but if you have an action, it's another. Now, if you take the same tournament and you say, okay, this person thinks Street Fighter sucks, goes to the tournament and like interrupts matches because they think Street Fighter sucks that much. Right? That to me would be a ban-worthy offense because now you're intruding on people's right to enjoy that thing. You're intruding on the rights of other people. You could be like a racist person in your head and say something at your house, go to an event and not bother anybody.
True, but that's not what they did.
Who?
That's not what LTG did. That's.
What do you mean?
He didn't just say it to someone at his house. He publicly broadcasted it.
So he was at his house technically.
He was at his house, but it was public, right?
But okay, did he like call for? Because I saw the clip. I don't think he called for anybody to do anything to Sarah or to like.
He basically,
you know what I mean?
He gave his like. He
basically raged Sarah like he always does,
right?
Yeah.
Right. And like he did the same thing to Broly Legs too. And
right. Yes.
that was horrible.
That
but I think that, it's not an exact science to find out where that line is, but it's better to try and find and debate where that line is than to just say that there's no line at all and we'll just let anyone in.
Well, so I agree with that last point. I mean, I think you have to gatekeep to some degree, right? But like, so what do you think about what I said before about like, if you take certain people and say that you can't make fun of those people, then what you're actually doing is you're saying that those people are too weak to be able to take shit talk. And I think that's worse than saying, than somebody making fun of them, because
I don't think that is necessarily what is implied. I think that it's not that they are too weak to defend themselves. It's just that it's, not, and I think in some ways it's a good effect. I do think there's a lot of bad effects of woke culture, but I do think a good effect is that it has become less socially accepted to be overtly racist or to be, overtly homophobic or transphobic. I don't think people should be homophobic or transphobic or racist.
How you define
I think it's their right to be, but I don't think it should.
I'm curious.
It's one of those things that you kind of have to take case by case. I don't think it's something you can define. And I do also worry, like you guys do, that like there will be cases where someone is clearly joking and has no mean-spirited intention getting caught up in that, and that does happen.
Well, that happens on YouTube too, actually.
And that's an aspect of
can't tell.
That's an aspect of woke culture that I don't like, and that I think people are too judgmental about. But I don't like to sort of take an extreme. I think that and there's some good that's coming out of it, but it's going a little too far at the same time.
Well, so the reason I asked that, like, how do you define it, is because to me, all of those things are subjective. It's not an objective thing to say like something is overtly racist or something is, because like I said, I grew up, in New Jersey, cracking jokes on my friends because of whatever their immutables were. One of my friends was gay. One of my friends was Italian. One of my friends was, mulatto. One of my friends was this, And yes, I get that it's a different thing, but the reason, and that's also the reason why I asked, like, how often when you go to a tournament, do you sit down next to somebody that you really know very well? Because I do know that people shit talk each other that they don't know at tournaments all the time. It happens. But my point there is like, it's up to the person to decide whether or not they're offended by something. And so for an authority, an overarching authority, so for example, like the whole FGC code of conduct, like creating a government for the FGC to decide like what is universally offensive, it's just kind of like, you know, I've heard people like get involved in things because they heard somebody say something that they were offended by to somebody else who wasn't offended by it, and now it's a problem. And it's like, this is why I think we need to just kind of keep these things open and also allow each other to just kind of resolve your own disputes, have good conversations around, hey man, I didn't really like that you said that to me. Oh, okay. Most people will be like, oh, my bad. If somebody's not like that, then fuck them and walk away. Like, you don't have to go to mom and dad. You don't have to go to like, you know, and I really don't think that like my generation in particular, I don't know how old you are, Peter, but
30.
Okay, so we're around the same. Yeah, we're all the same. So we have this issue where we always are constantly looking to an authority to resolve our disputes for us. And that's my main problem with a lot of this, is that it's become, the authority is either, you know, some unelected official who's writing up the FGC code of conduct, or the Twitter mob. And
or
it's
Capcom.
Like, or Capcom, right? Exactly.
Or whomever.
Mommy, dad, yeah, exactly. It's like this whole like, you know, mom, dad, this person like said something mean to me, and it's like, dude, how about you just like talk to them about it? Like, if somebody said something to you that upset you, talk to them about it. You know, I guarantee you 9 times out of 10, if somebody was being really mean to you, and I know this sounds really hippy dippy, this is not usually my thing, but 9 times out of 10, it's because they're going through some bullshit and they're upset about it.
I would say that's almost every time.
Yeah. And if people would just like talk to each other, like what happened with F-Champ, like where it's like now he's banned from everything because he made a stupid joke, and nobody was just like, hey man, that's just kind of a stupid joke. Everybody's like, you gotta ban, fuck this guy. Oh, this kind of, it's like, dude, like.
Yeah, we talked about that one where we were just like, that's bannable now. It's like where's the line anymore? You know?
Right.
And my whole thing is, I guess, with this whole like what's bannable and what's not. It's kind of like the behavior's point. It was just like, you know, it's going to come down to whoever's in charge. Like
right.
The code of conduct kind of displays that pretty clearly, because
right.
that whole thing was super inconsistent. Whether it gets adapted or not, like it probably won't be. Like I'm actually pretty pleased to hear that people on Reddit don't like that thing, which is really good.
Yeah.
I don't trust Ultra David in charge of all the moral authority over the FGC. I do not trust that guy. So like my whole thing is, you know, it's really going to come down to like whoever's in charge is going to define morality. Like, for example, like I have a trans friend who like really hates the LGBT in general. She thinks it's like a cult, and she's like, I just want to be trans. Just leave me alone.
Yeah.
And you know, like there's even like an interesting there's like one like TED talk about this black guy who would go to KKK meetings.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
And I think he convinced them to all like step down. So
yeah.
You know, watching that and like over the last few years, I've kind of realized like the more you ban people that like say the things you really don't like oh, like I don't like black people or whatnot, the more you exclude those people, the more the worse, like the more hive-minded they become. Like,
right.
You kind of have to allow conversation with those people, like
right.
kind of like people in that, you know, like that TED talk. And I feel like the way the whole bannable offense thing is going in the FGC is kind of the opposite of that, and it's going to have some serious consequences down the line. Like I don't really want to know, and that's kind of why we oppose it so strongly, is that we don't think it's the answer. And I don't even think they know that.
Right. Well, that's the thing too, is it's like it's so easy. You hit on the point. If you ban people from these events, it doesn't take their ideas out of their head. It actually makes their ideas swell. They go to a place where they can now like have an echo chamber for themselves, and nobody's there to push back on their ideas anymore. So that's dangerous, right? And that's the thing, is it's like the key is it's not removing speech entirely. It's just having better speech and having conversations with people. Like if a lot of those people who were like dissing us on Twitter came on this show and talked to us, they would realize we're not scary people.
It would be just like this.
You know, we've disagreed a little bit. Great. That's fine. You know what I mean? But like, we're having a conversation about it. I'm not yelling at you. I'm not mad at you. You know what I mean? It's
right.
Like, you know, and but if you take away that ability, what you do is you make those ideas fester, and then they become worse, and then they spread, and then it actually does the exact opposite of what people think that it does.
But you know, I don't think we should really be leaning on like fighting game tournaments to change people's minds. I think that the bans aren't about changing people's minds. They're about how everyone else who goes feels when they're there.
What do you mean?
No, I think that the bans of people who say something offensive, it's not about changing that person's mind. It's about creating an environment for all the other attendees that they feel comfortable.
Yeah, but like, it's really about that one. To me, it's really about that one person that they think is going to be upset about it, because most people don't fucking care, from my perspective. Like,
but just to chime in real quick, it's really, the way I see it is, it's really just about protecting the people who agree with him getting banned.
Right.
It's not necessary, because they're not really accepting of every idea, as we've
Right.
kind of discussed and seen like over the last like year or two. It's like certain ideas, it's just like, that's too hateful, we can't allow it. So it's really just, you know, like these people who agree with one idea can only stay, kind of thing.
Right.
And you know, it's also probably about, from like Capcom's perspective, it's just about like, they want things to go smoothly. They don't want a risk of some kind of confrontation on the event floor.
But the entire thing is confrontation.
Yeah, but in a very, you know what I mean,
in like a controlled way. I mean, yeah, but like, I don't think there's really a risk of that, to be completely honest. I think that like some people are weird, but like, honestly, like,
I don't know how realistic a risk it is. I just think from Capcom's perspective, that's partially probably why they have done what they've done.
Yeah, I think it has to do with
challenge
just
that too, right?
Seeing
it's kind of
that,
like the whole fundamental premise,
right,
of like, you know, we have to watch out for like certain people, because like these certain people with these ideas really support our thing. We have to protect them and screw everybody else. I mean, we kind of challenge that even like on itself, like the whole premise of like a company doing that, because you kind of see that with other companies too right now. Is like they really just like pick like the like if the whoever's the loudest that will give them the most profit, like they go out for those guys. So like, you know,
right.
I don't really know how you change that over time. It's going to be really difficult. But I mean, and also like, is every event really like from Capcom itself? Because I know a lot of people who run their own events. Like I know BC's not affiliated with Capcom.
I mean, I just bring up Capcom because that is
because they were on board.
We were specifically talking about the LTG thing.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I think that like, I don't think that it's these my cat is like all over me right now. So
no, you're all right.
But I don't think that it's necessarily Capcom's responsibility in that sense. Like, I think that it's I think that it's everyone's responsibility to protect themselves to some degree, always. If you feel like a person being at an event makes that event unsafe for you, I mean, I honestly have two options. You can either not go to the event, or you can avoid the person at the event. I don't think that LTG saying that about Sarah tells me that he's planning to attack or like do anything to make Sarah unsafe at an event. Like, I think that's that would be a really huge stretch to make. Like, it would be hard for me to make the case that like he's actually a bodily threat to that person. You know,
I would agree with that. I don't think that. I also would be really surprised if LTG went to the event, if anything actually came to it of it. Definitely. And I'm not even necessarily saying that I agree with his ban. I go back and forth. Sometimes I do. Sometimes I don't. But what I do definitely disagree with is just the notion that they shouldn't ban anyone ever, regardless.
Well, no. So I never made that. I never made that point.
Regardless of what they say, or
gotcha.
what ideas they express.
Gotcha. Yeah, I think that it's the speech thing for me, you know.
Yeah, for me, the cutoff is just like, is the speech inciting violence?
Right.
That's the only time I really have any concern, because besides that, even if you have a hateful idea, I mean, people have hateful ideas about us, so they get banned kind of thing. It's
exactly.
Like, you know, hateful ideas. for me, like I'm like I at least like I'm able to separate like someone's ideology from the person, right? Like someone has a like I met
because that can be changed.
Yeah, like I have people in my family. Like let me tell you, like Hispanics are some of the most racist people I've ever met.
Yeah, for sure.
They're in my own family.
Oh, I know.
And I've listened to conversations where they say the craziest things about, and even done craziest things to other family members.
Yeah.
But it's not like, they don't like, not every time I interact with them is really about that. So really, I kind of
right.
Now I'm not really saying like other people have to like, I guess I'll like deal with that. It's just kind of like something that's like in my family and whatnot. But it just I'm able to separate those things, and I'm wondering if the FFC can do the same over time, like kind of separate the like ideas from what people do. Because LTG, I'll give an example, like what LTG does online. Like Slavic has actually met LTG multiple times at events, and at events he's a totally different person.
Yeah,
exactly. Really interesting. It kind of makes me think like he
has a persona
character.
It's a persona.
Yeah, it's a persona, right? So it's kind of like, where does the line get drawn? Like, can someone be a hateful persona online but totally be fine at a physical event? Like, is that warrant a ban?
Yeah, I mean that's the thing too. Is it's like a lot of it. I think that like even RobTV said it's like a lot of this is entertainment. This is like WWE. Like, dude, like the chances of someone actually harming someone at one of these events, to me, I think is very low. Now, I know that we had that incident, right? Like with Madden a couple of years ago where somebody got shot at a Madden tournament. Like,
yeah.
And then after that, I remember going to FGC events and people were really scared. And they were like, you had to like check your bags and all this kind of stuff. Yeah. And like, it was a whole thing. I remember I went to an event like right after that happened. And like, there was like a whole, like somebody gave like a whole speech about like how like messed up it was and all this kind of stuff. And it was like really the first time I'd ever like heard about or seen like that fear actually be warranted. Right. Since then, I haven't really heard about anything. And like, I don't doubt that people get into scraps or some things like that. But like, then it's like, where does that lead us? Like, are we just gonna like do like precog, like Minority Report? Like, oh my God, like, like this person said this thing and that means that this person might do XYZ. Like, I mean, I don't know. That's the problem that I have with banning it about speech is like, I think when actions are involved, it's a completely different thing. If the guy goes to an event and antagonizes this person, follows this person around, does weird stuff, totally ban him. No problem with that. If this person says something on the internet, talk shit back to him. I mean,
Well, I just think, if they ban someone who is like actively supporting whatever Nazism, I feel personally that would be appropriate. And I think most people do feel that would be appropriate.
I don't disagree, but I think that most people also don't understand the point of free speech. I would argue that. Because I think a lot of people nowadays want to get rid of free speech. And we see that very actively. People don't want people to be able to spread ideas. Like I said, they were trying to cancel us before we had 100 subs.
I mean, I do want everyone to have free speech, but I don't think getting banned from a fighting game tournament based on what you say is a restriction.
Why not?
Freedom
that's
of
literally
speech.
that's literally the definition of it. Based on something that you say, you're banned.
Because you can still say whatever you want. It's just you're not owed a platform to say it.
You can't say it without fear of not being able to do something. So like, how far does that take us, right? Like now are we going to propose that people who say things that we don't like can't download digital video games now? Okay, now you can't participate in playing the games now because you said something online. And this is what happens when Sony actually introduced this thing on the PlayStation Network, where now people can like submit voice chats to people to people that said things that they don't like, and Sony can take action on that. And it's like this is what I mean with the slippery slope. How far do you go with that? You said something I don't like online. Now I'm taking your license for playing Street Fighter 5. You can't even play the game anymore. I mean, this already happened to LTG. You know what I mean?
I mean, it's like, but you still would have your freedom of speech. You don't have a right.
No, you don't. Freedom of speech means that you should be able to say whatever you want without being restricted from any type of commerce or anything like that. Like being afraid that you're going to be restricted out of e-commerce, thus that's a way to control your speech. So that actually, you don't have freedom of speech then.
But in a way, it kind of sounds like you're saying you think people should be able to say whatever they want without having any consequences for what they say.
Well, no, because I think that people should be able to say whatever they want and the consequence should be met with more speech. If the consequences are beyond speech, for speech, I think it's too far. If somebody says something I don't like, I'm going to talk back to them or I'm going to stop talking to them. That's
like,
it.
think of what happened with LTG and Viskin. They were constantly back and forth each other. Like, let's just play a first of 5 and just talk more.
And LTG got beat.
Yeah. And like,
and Viscan said straight up to him, "How does my dick in your mouth taste?"
That's what he said back to him. Yeah.
Are we gonna ban him for that?
That's one of the best.
Yeah, that was so funny, dude.
It was so
funny. One of the most historic moments I've ever seen.
How's my dick taste?
How's my dick taste? It's like, oh shit.
That's the answer.
That's what I'm saying. More speech.
The answer.
The answer is more speech. You don't ban people or take away their right to participate in like commerce because they said something you don't like. No, you just be like, "Hey man, I don't like you said that. I'm gonna tell you something." Okay, cool. Like you handle it like an adult. You know, that's what I think.
I mean, I think in a lot of cases that's the right choice to make, but it's also their right to make it. You know,
I mean, that's like Skynet is a private industry company. They can do whatever they want. Says man getting cursed off by a Terminator. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
So, I mean, like, that's the thing is it's like once you start like turning it into like this thing where now we want to like, I don't know. I just think that that's very dystopian and weird. Like, and there's no limit to that. When people start accepting those ideas, you just push it further and further and further and further.
Because then, you know, the whole freedom of speech idea was just like, you can pretty much say what you want and government can't get involved. You don't need government anymore. You just have everybody else do it.
Right, exactly. They don't need, exactly, right. And now we're creating government within, so. You know.
It's kind of like a cultural thing, really more cultural than even, I mean, I would even argue right now, like certain big tech companies are stronger than government right now.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, you don't really need government to do those things anymore.
Yeah.
It's really like, they're using these companies as an outlet for to do the things they want to do. And I don't know. I don't really see it I don't see us going in a good place in like 5-10 years.
And you could use the argument like, oh, you know, Capcom and Street Fighter, like, oh, this is a privilege and they're a private company, they can do whatever they want. But like, let's be real. There's a monopoly in that space. So again, it's just like Twitter banning Trump or whatever, right? It's like, once you give somebody like a company or whatever has enough power in any particular space, and then they start doing those things, what they ended up doing is they remove that person's access to like all of it because they're the ones doing it. And that's not an idea I can accept. I think that that's actually bad.
But you know, the logical consequence of what you're saying is that you feel that people shouldn't be banned from Twitter regardless of what they tweet in any circumstance.
No. I think that we have rules around we know about the difference between call to action, right? We know the difference between a call to action and just an opinion or like a statement, right? And like, if you're going to say that somebody said something that you don't like on Twitter, therefore they should be banned, like that is just going to come back. That could just come back around to you, like literally the next day. Like, and that the problem is that there's really no way to stop it other than just let ideas flow and make sure that people don't get bodily harmed. I think that the equation of, and I keep going back to this, but the equation of words to harm is really, really dangerous. Like, I should be able to like think about like, how fast is comedy going to get banned if we're thinking about it like this? Like, you know what I mean? Like, these are the ways that we're able to like kind of test where lines are, where people, you know, all those kinds of like test what ideas are bad and test what ideas are good. I mean, like, until it comes to physical, I don't think that there's really even a point in like in making it a bigger thing than like between the two people who are having the conversation.
I mean, where the lines are is a complicated topic, and it will vary from person to person where they feel the line is. But I don't think that ambiguity should stop us from trying to have a line of acceptable speech.
But so acceptable speech
for acceptable speech, not
free.
In terms of legal, but acceptable speech in terms of before we ban your account.
Right. I mean, but so when you start, okay, I think about this a lot. I think about the term politically correct a lot. And I think once we started saying that term and accepted that term into the ethos, the zeitgeist, whatever you want to call it, that was the end of free speech. Because when you say that something has to be politically correct, what you're saying is that someone's politics can be incorrect. And once you say that someone's politics can be incorrect, that means that you can start shoving their ideology into this box and demonizing them and taking away that they're right to have ideas, but also to some degree be human. You know, you're stripping that from them.
The interesting thing about the actual term of political correctness is that it has been, from its inception, from the very beginning of the term, it has always been a pejorative. So the term was brought about by conservatives criticizing liberals.
Interesting. I didn't know that.
And it's always sort of had a negative connotation from its beginning. And that's it. That's really all.
That's it. I didn't know that. I'm gonna look that up. I didn't.
Yeah,
I'm
actually. I mean, it's probably true. I mean, be saying crazy shit.
Yeah, because I've never heard of it being like a pejorative. I've always heard of it as like, oh, that's not politically correct. Like you, like people being serious about using it. Like, you know what I mean? Like you can't say Oriental, for example. Like my mom she probably still says it because she's old. But like, you know, even my girlfriend is Asian and her mom is Japanese and her mom says Oriental too. So it's like, I mean, whatever. But like, but like that, I grew up with that being like, that's not a politically correct term, right? So you can't say that. And like, it was like serious. So that's interesting. I never heard that before.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where it's like, well, I wonder what regardless of the intent, it's kind of like, what have we done with the meaning of words?
Right.
2021. It's like it's hard to really. It's what I've noticed about like a lot of like different sides, like ideologically, is that we don't agree on even terms anymore. Like fundamental terms, like more like right and wrong, what's correct, what's not. Like
that's
we don't
true.
even see eye to eye on that. It's part of the reason we have so divided on a lot of things.
We live in like alternate realities. I think that's like Scott Adams was saying. It's like when Trump would do speeches back in the day when he was writing about this, he said that one group of people saw him holding an apple. The other group of people saw him holding a gun. And it was like just a complete like two dimensions. So I think you're right. Like we're living in this like this reality where like, I mean, even like you saw this with our stuff, like people were saying that we were saying all types of wild shit. I went back and looked at the video and I was like, wait a second, we didn't say half of the stuff that these people are saying. Yeah, like what is going on? Like, so it's like they're either I don't know if they're actually hearing that or if like
they want to believe that.
Yeah, or like what it is, but like there's like we fundamentally see the world like starkly differently. Yeah. Like that, like it's hard to come to that point where you're talking about accepted speech or like any type of agreement because one group is so far over here and the other group is so far over here, you know?
Yeah, I mean, that's...
you know, in some ways it's not as far as it seems, right?
Yeah.
Like, do you really feel like you guys and I are that far?
No, I don't.
I don't either.
No.
I don't think we are.
I don't think we are, but
a lot of people.
I also don't think
we don't
that
represent everybody.
I think that I'm probably have more in common with the people who espouse left-wing ideologies than you might think, you know.
Well, I'm sure you do.
I often agree with the thrust of what they're saying a lot of the times. The thing I don't like is just how they use it to hurt people.
Like, I think they'll oust you at some point.
Well, so you're already on here. You're already on here talking to us. So you got it. You're already like you're screwed, man. It's over. But with that being said, we've been talking for a minute. I'd love to have you back on and chat more, because this is a great conversation. I really do appreciate your willingness to come on here and like share these ideas. And like, look at this, guys. None of us got mad. We just went back and forth. We talked. It was great. So if you're somebody who disagrees with us, please come on the show. We'll have conversations. Let's talk about this stuff, man. Anyway, so before we go, Peter, let everybody know where they can find you on the interwebs, and if you have anything coming up.
Well, my Capcom ID is Peter PC, so feel free to. I'm not like a content creator or anything, so feel free. Is
that PC for political correct?
Yeah, Peter, politically correct. Exactly.
All right, and Silos, tell them where they can find you.
YouTube and Twitch at Silos. Same thing for both.
All right,
and thanks, guys, for having me. Also, again.
Oh, thanks for coming.
Oh yeah, dude,
it's been a lot of fun.
Absolutely. And you can find me as usual at youtube.com/LokesTakes, LOCSTAKES. That's because I am Chris Lokes, aka Mr. Behavior. You can also find me on Twitch at Mr. Behavior. And that's about it, because yeah, and I'm gonna get myself back to a respectable rank on Street Fighter, so Silas stops ripping on me.
Please. I mean, at least.
All right, guys, this has been the Anti-Oki Podcast, and thank you. We're out.
They say you must defeat Shenlong to stand a chance, but homie, you're dead wrong. Just take a glance. Attack me if you dare, son. I will crush you. I'll crack your back. You should be scared, son. I'll bust you. Just go home and be a family man. If not, I'm gonna have to destroy your anatomy, man. It's natural for someone like me to be the world's strongest, because I'm on this. Just being honest. I astonished. My sonic boom flash kicks are right here waiting for you. Wanna get your ass kicked for your plastic. Your kung fu is weak and mine is chic and spastic. Fantastic. You're not a warrior, you're just a beginner. Get up, wimp, and bask in the glory of a winner. My strength is much greater than yours. I'm a street fighting legend, the creator of wars. No use debating the score. I've waited patiently for someone to pound through the ground. I'll smash your face in the floor. Get lost, dog. I'm the boss. You can't compare with my powers. I play this game for the fame. They claim the hundreds of hours.
Listen, it's a tournament edition. Challenging me, it's just like pissing in the wind. Doing KO since I was 1 day old. Keep on wishing, man, cause no, you'll never win. Yo, listen, it's a tournament edition. Challenging me, it's just like pissing in the wind. Doing KO since I was 1 day old. Keep on wishing, man, cause no, you'll never win. No need to worry, a state of euphoria. I won the tourney twice, now I am the world warrior. Using my kung fu to destroy you. Flurry of kicks which only your performer hard to. Ken's a competitor, write you out like an editor. Stay ahead of the pack, flame attack like a predator. I ain't stretching the truth, my dull sims the tightest. I'll leave you burnt to a crisp with elephantitis. Need to charge up to bite, scrap attack with Blanca. Yo, I'm warming up my engines when you lose to Honda. There's no doubt my win count will hunt ya. Wanna try and win again? We'll let their dish you for one time. Every street fight is better the second time around. I've learned how to throw down. I'm KO bound. Do I punch light or medium? No, I punch hard because I'm pretty sure I just kicked a boo up a car. Yo, you're looking like vomit. I busted suplex atomic. I fill the room with the boom that sounds supersonic. Tiger flame so feisty, uppercut so nicely. Sagat will brew you up a batch of Mai Tai iced tea. Listen, it's a tournament edition. Challenging me, it's just like pissing in the wind. Doing KO since I was 1 day old. Keep on wishing, man, cause no, you'll never win. Yo, listen, it's a tournament edition. Challenging me, it's just like pissing in the wind. Doing KO since I was 1 day old. Keep on wishing, man, cause no,